Hello everybody and welcome to the third part of my tutorial on Premiere Pro. So in the last couple of tutorials we did setting up a new project and sequences, and then a little bit of setting up a time, or getting to use the time, learning to use the timeline, sorry, and a bit of an explanation of some basic editing and some of these tools here. And so in this tutorial I'm going to explain some of these tools here and give a little bit more in-depth about that. So I decided not to do that in the last tutorial just because this, they can get quite long. So yeah. And so you guys, just to recap what I said before, you're probably working in the 2022 version, which is a little bit slightly different to where the buttons are, or to this version, which is the 2020 version, but overall it's the same. Like, I've been using this program for a long time, 10 years, and this interface has not changed much at all. So it's just where they put the buttons, and that's all. So don't worry too much if the version that you're working on does not look like this one. Okay, that's fine. You should still have these four windows. So just to recap, we have our source window, footage for the footage, our source window here, footage window, sorry, timeline, and the viewing window where we review the footage. Okay, so so let's get into the tools over here. So I've got our footage on the timeline, and we can play our footage. We learned how to turn the audio on and off, how to delete it. So there's a few buttons over here that are really, really useful. So first of all, we've got the selection tool. And these have all got hotkeys as well. So if you hover your mouse over it, it will explain what the hotkey is. So for this one, the selection tool, it is V. So if any time you want to go back to the selection tool, you just click V, or you bring your mouse over here. So the selection tool is basically the tool we use all the time to move clips around and to select them. Okay, so that's the selection tool. Then we've got this one here. So if we click on it, on this one here, and hold the mouse button down, it will tell us what it is. It is the track select forward tool, or the track select backwards tool, which is a useful tool, especially once our edits get a lot more complicated. This tool is very useful. So what it does is I'll just select the track select forward button, or you can push A as well on the keyboard, A, or I believe the other one is up and A. And it basically selects all your clips after wherever you place the arrows on the timeline. So if I've got a bunch of clips and I say, you can always select all your clips, but just by clicking the Control or Windows A and A keys. So that will, if I just go back to my selection tool and go Windows plus A, that selects all your clips. So say you want to move them around on the timeline, everything you've done. That's what that does, right? The track select forward button is really useful because if you wanted to, say, select half of your clips, and only half of your clips, and move those over, and that's what it does. So it selects everything after wherever you place that on the timeline. And then you could say, move those over, because you might go, okay, well, I want to put another shot in there. And so that's what I want to do. So I've got to move some of my clips over. So that's what that one does. And then we can go back to our selection tool and grab our footage that we've moved over, and we can put it all back together. So then we've got a bunch of shots there. So that's the track select forward, and then the track select backwards does the same, but backwards. It's a very useful tool in certain circumstances. So then the one underneath it, we've got, if you hold down the mouse button, it should bring up there's three different controls here, three different tools, sorry. So you've got the ripple edit tool, the rolling edit tool, and the straight stretch tool. So I'll start with the ripple edit tool. So the ripple edit tool is very, very useful for, so just to explain, I'll just zoom in. So when we're normally using the selection tool and we say shrink a clip like that, then we'll be left with this blank space, and then we will have to move the shots and to fill in the blank space. So we want to cut the shot there. Oops. Actually, just going to Control Z, go back. So let's say we want to cut the shot sort of halfway through this. This is a bit too long, so I want to cut it there. But then we're left with a blank space where nothing happens. And so we have to grab all the rest of our footage and pull it over. So that's useful, but when we've got lots of footage, or we're doing, say, editing an interview, the Ripple Edit tool is very useful for editing when we're doing stuff like that. So we just select the Ripple Edit tool with the hotkey is B, and if it turns into a yellow mouse when you bring it over the end of a piece of footage, and if you just pull it over like that, it will actually just pull the rest of the footage together. So it pulls everything together and then shrinks it. Shrinks this clip. So it shrinks this clip, pulls all the other clips in to fill up the blank space, which is very, very useful, especially for when you've got lots of footage on the timeline and you're doing lots of editing. It can just make your life a little bit easier. And it's also really, really useful for doing editing of interviews, which I'll do a tutorial on later on. So that's the Ripple Edit tool. Then we've got the Rolling Edit tool, which is also a useful tool. And now this tool looks like that when you bring it over the timeline, and what it does is it just basically, if you hold down the mouse button and move it around in between, you need to put it in between the edit points of two shots, and it will basically move the start and the end point of each of your edits. So that's the Rolling Edit tool. It is very useful for certain situations where you want to change the in and out, the end point of one shot and the start point of another shot. And when you do it, if you look up on the screen, on the viewing screen on the right, top right there, you can see it's showing you where the end point of the first shot is and the start point of the second shot is. And it's giving you the time code as well. So that's what that's for. It's very useful for doing stuff like multicam editing, and other types of editing as well. It's useful for lots of different things. So that's the Rolling Edit tool. And then we've got the Rate Stretch tool. And this is the tool that we can use to slow down and speed up our shots. So let's find a bit of a shot with a bit of movement. This one here. So the Rate Stretch tool, if you bring it over the end of a shot and shrink it, it will speed up the shot. And so I'm just going to zoom in. So the more we shrink it, the faster the shot will speed up. Right? Which is useful for some stuff, if you want to speed up a shot or you want to do something goofy. That's what that tool is for. It's the Rate Stretch tool. You can also use it to slow down a shot. So here's our shot of our man walking. I'll just go Control Z, go back, or Command Z, sorry, or Windows Z. That's the normal speed. So if we want to slow it down, we can do that. And it's telling you the percentage of how much it's slowing down. So it's 42% slower. And then we can see the little man there in the distance is slower. Now the thing about slow motion is that the more that you try to make it slower, the worse it will look because it doesn't have enough frames. So I mean that looks okay because the little man is a long way away. But if it was something a little bit more noticeable, perhaps this shot here, then when we try to slow it down heaps, it might not look so good. You can see because it doesn't have enough frames, that it's very jittery, and the slow motion looks terrible. So basically, the higher the frame rate, the better your slow motion is going to be. So that's 25 frames per second. So if we want really good slow motion, upwards of 100 frames per second. Most DSLR cameras don't shoot that high frame rates, so you have to get a better camera basically. Your phone might shoot some slow motion footage, but it'll probably have a worse codec and aspect ratio. Anyway, it's getting too technical, so I'll just stop there. And then, so that's the three tools there. So we've got the ripple edit tool, the rolling edit tool, and the rate stretch tool. All very useful for different situations. Then we've got the razor tool, this one here, which is C, the hotkey. And that basically is what we use to put a cut into the footage, so we can put a cut wherever we want. We just bring it over the timeline. Say we want to cut this shot here, about there, we can just go, okay, we're just going to put a cut there, and it puts a cut into the footage. Then we can grab the selection tool and delete where we put the cut. So that's what that tool is useful for. And it will always leave a blank space. You can, if you put in a cut, you can go select the footage, and you could go right click, and you could go ripple delete, which is basically the same as the ripple edit tool. So that will just get rid of the shot that we've cut, and will shrink, or not shrink, but it will pull the other shots after it together, so that you're not left with a blank space. So that's right click on your mouse, brings up this menu, and ripple delete. There we go. I'm just going to go back. And one other little thing, since I'm using the right click button on here, so I'm just going to bring that one up. If we go right click, and this brings up this menu again, there's lots of things here that we can use, lots of controls. So we've got ripple edit tool, we can cut and paste footage, so cut, copy, nesting, which is a little bit more advanced, so we won't get into that. But there's speed duration as well. So speed duration, this one here, speed duration. If you select a shot, right click on it, go speed duration. And this is the same as the ripple edit tool. So it basically, it speeds up or slow down the footage. So you can speed up or slow down the footage. But unlike the ripple edit tool, this is a more precise way of the rate stretch tool. Sorry, it's a more precise way of speeding up and slowing down your footage. So let's say we want to speed it up by 50%. We just type in 50%. Or slow down, sorry. So I went slow down, so I'm just going to go window back or control back, whatever. Speed duration. So it's a more precise way to speed up my footage. So if I wanted to speed it up, I would go minus 50%. Oops. Is it minus? Oh, sorry, no, I'm thinking about something else. Sorry, we'd go reverse speed. No, not reverse speed. Reverse speed is an interesting one because it just reverses it. If you wanted to go backwards. So that's the reverse speed button. But speed duration, yeah, so speed duration, we can speed up or slow down the footage. So there we go. And you can also do, there's a ripple edit function as well for that. And if you want to speed it up, I think it's, so if we go 200, that will speed it up. Yeah. So I'm just going to go back. So if we wanted to go really fast, select it, speed duration, 400, and it's going to go really fast. Cool. And then slowing down is the minus, so minus 400. Oh, that should have worked. There we go. Whoa. I really slowed that down. Okay. 0.1. Okay. So anyway, so that's a speed duration control, which is useful as well. So, yep. cool. So we got speed duration. We're up to the razor tool. So now the next tool is the slip tool, and we've got the slide tool as well. I don't really use these tools much, to be honest with you guys. So the slip tool, I'm not too familiar with, but I do use it sometimes. But it basically changes the in point or the start point and the end point of the shot inside the actual clip itself. So, which is useful for some situations where you're doing some really fine editing. So, if you want to change, say exactly where this shot starts and ends, that's where you would use this one, the slip tool. So basically, if you hold down the mouse and just bring it over the shot, and it basically changes changes the start and the end point of that particular shot. So if you're looking at your window up there, you can see it's telling you, okay, so if you move it left and right, it's telling you it's changing the start point by 7 seconds, and then it's changing the end point. So it just changes where it starts and ends, basically. That's what the slip tool does. The slide tool does the same thing. Oops. Slide tool. Actually, no, I don't use the slide tool much at all, so I don't think I've ever used the slide tool. So yeah, I'm going to leave the slide tool because I don't actually know what it does. That's okay. Maybe you could Google that one. That could be some of your self-directed learning. Here we go. Probably don't know what it is because I never use it. So yeah, slide tool. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So then we've got the pen tool, which is not what it sounds like. So the pen tool is for if we're doing a little bit of automation on our audio track. So if I'll just bring in some more audio, go back to my selection tool, and I'm just going to make the audio track a little bit bigger. So here we go, audio. So then we can see our actual audio file there. And so when we see our audio file, we've got this little line in the middle of the audio file, and we can grab that, and that's the volume of the audio. So if we play it, it's on mute, we can see our audio levels. Now this audio level, I mean the audio is pretty terrible, but we can make it louder or softer. With audio like this, you would just delete it, but the pen tool is where we can automate the sound. So we could go pen tool, click on the pen tool, and you can click a point on the audio. Let's say we want to fade this audio out. So I'm going to click on the audio, the volume level, and it puts in a little point here. And then I'm going to move the pen tool along, and I'm going to put in another point like that. Those are our 2 points there, and then we grab the selection tool, and if we grab one of them, we can just pull it down until it hits the bottom of the audio track, and that will basically just fade out the audio. And that's what that's for, basically. It's useful for some situations, but for this audio, I just would be deleting it anyway because it's not very good. Just a point to note with the audio, if the audio hits the top there, it goes red. So if I push this up a little bit, like that, and if it hits the top there, it shouldn't be hitting the top, so it shouldn't be going any more than -6 on our little scale there of decibels. It shouldn't be hitting the top there. If it does, it goes red, and that means it's peaking, and the sound's it's not good. It got as loud as it could go, and it won't go any louder. So yeah, so you don't want it to hit the red, and if it does hit the red, then you can just click on it and it will delete the little red buttons there. Okay, so that's the pen tool. The last couple of tools we've got is the hand tool. So the hand tool, And the hand tool is really just for moving around the timeline, so you can just use the hand tool to move around. So you hold down the mouse button and it will move around the timeline. Useful for some stuff. Most of the time I just use the plus and minus key to zoom in and out of the timeline and move the playhead. Wherever you move the playhead on the timeline, that's where it's going to zoom in. So I don't use the hand tool that much. But that's what it's for. There's also the zoom tool, which is zooming in and out again, and you can just use the plus and minus key for that. And then we have this one here, the type tool. So the type tool is a very useful tool. So the way that works is that if we select the type tool and we use it to type stuff on the screen, which is good for many different things. So we bring the mouse over the screen and we can just type in something. So, yep, cool. And then it brings up this little box there and we can type something into it. So wide shot. Wide shot. And then I can drag my my text anywhere on the screen. And also, once we've typed in something, it will actually appear on the timeline. So I'm just going to, it will appear on the timeline like that as a little pink rectangle, which you can move around anywhere on the timeline, and that's a graphic thing. I don't know what you call it, but that's what it is. And you can just put it anywhere you want. So that's what the type tool's for.